Happy Friday evening, everyone. We are here for our continued study of the book of Exodus. Now we are in chapters 5 through 6. Hope everyone has had a good day. I have been enjoying the very short but fairly well done 7th season of the animated Clone Wars series. I kind of saw a lot of people were complaining about the middle part of it, but I saw where they were going, and I have enjoyed it, and looking forward to the very last episode next week. I will be sad to see that series go. I watched Rogue One this afternoon, and I have to say that definitely is Disney's best effort, and I wish they would go in that direction for moving forward. They're definitely doing that with Mandalorian, I think. So anyway, just a pretty fun day today. Also, my twins have both requested to start reading into my novels, and so they both were doing a little bit of nighttime reading. Hey, Savannah, and have started into the first novel that I have published. So that's pretty exciting, and just a lot of growing going on for everybody here at the house. My wife's business is doing really, really well right now, and bringing a little bit of extra income for us while everybody's at home, and I don't know, just a very positive time for us. I know a lot of other people are stressed out, but it's it's cool to be in what a lot of people are calling a crisis, and having such positive things happening. I get to stay home and goof off with my kid. They've really gotten into archery. They do it almost every day. I went out and bought them a few more arrows, and they invite their friends. All the kids in the neighborhood come up and shoot some bows and arrows. We got a target set up, and they're getting pretty good. So it's pretty exciting. So very, very happy about that. So anyway, tonight we're going to be doing Exodus chapters 5 and 6, and they're fairly short chapters, so I don't know that we'll be here all that long. We might get to 45 minutes. I know last night was an hour. I had a little bit of extra stuff to get into, just digging a little bit deeper, but tonight's not going to be as near as long as last night. I don't think there's unless somebody brings up a question or has a comment or something that we can delve into, but other than that, I don't see anything here. It was pretty straightforward text. So with that said, it's been 3 minutes past, so we're going to go ahead and get started into the text itself. Exodus chapter 5, reading from the King James, ESV up for some modern English, and of course the original language should we need to reference that. So verse 1, And afterward Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, Thus saith Jehovah God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. So remember, at this point, Moses has gone back. He's given a bunch of excuses. God met all those excuses. And then Moses has gone back to the people, and he showed them the signs that God told him to show them. They believed. At this point, the Israelites believe what Moses has said. They believe that Jehovah has sent him to free them, and they're behind him at this point. And so now they're going on to Pharaoh to talk to him for the first time and say, you need to let the Israelites go 3 days into the wilderness to sacrifice to their God Jehovah. And so that's where we are in this story. Verse 2, And Pharaoh said, Who is Jehovah? Now remember, Moses here, I know the King James and a lot of the translations keep with this really, I think, silly tradition of the name of God is so holy that we don't really want to even put it into text or whatever. And so instead of saying Jehovah, they actually translated the Lord. And Lord is usually in this kind of title casing, or lower, it's the lower caps, all caps, but some of the caps are smaller. And they do that out of a tradition that was brought up, a rabbinical tradition that was brought up by the Hebrews. God never said you can't do that. So, hey, Rosalind, Arthur, Mom, welcome aboard. And so I'm kind of, even though I'm reading out of the King James, I'm doing that translation job that they should have done. And it's important because here, if we look at Pharaoh and he says, "Who is the Lord?" That's so generic. That's not what he's asking. He's asking about this specific God. He's saying, I don't know Jehovah. Who is this Jehovah that you're telling me about? And so he says, "Who is Jehovah that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not Jehovah, neither will I let Israel go." And there's a lot more impact when you actually deal with the actual name of God. And I spoke a little bit about that yesterday, and what does it mean to use the name of God in vain and whatever. But it's very, very important that we understand God's name. I am the self-existent one. Pharaoh doesn't know the specific God. And so he's like, I don't know him. I don't have any reason to listen to you. And so I'm not going to let the people go. Hey, Tom. Hey, Kimberly. So verse 3, Exodus 5:3, and they said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto Jehovah our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with sword." And so the excuse they make at this point is, Jehovah has come to us. He's our God. He's the God of our people. And he has come to us and said, we need to go make this sacrifice, or pestilence and the sword is going to come upon us. And we're fearful that he's going to bring these things upon us if we don't go out and sacrifice. And so they're not trying to threaten Pharaoh. That's not what's going on here at this moment. And the king of Egypt said unto them, "Wherefore do ye, Moses and Aaron, let the people from their works get you unto your burdens?" So his question is Moses and Aaron, who are you to try to take the people away from their work? They're my servants. They're my slaves. They're supposed to be working, and you want to try to take them away from that? Who are you to do that? Get back to work is basically what he's saying here. And Pharaoh said, "Behold, the people of the land now are many, and you make them rest from their burdens." And Pharaoh commanded the same day the taskmasters of the people and their officers, saying, "You shall no more give the people straw to make brick as heretofore. Let them go and gather straw for themselves. And the tale of the bricks," in other words, the same amount, "the tale of the bricks which they did make heretofore, you shall lay upon them. You shall not diminish aught thereof, for they be idle. Therefore they cry, saying, Let us go and sacrifice to our God. Let their more work be laid upon the men, that they may labor therein, and let them not regard vain words." So, hey Trent, welcome aboard. Right, so there are so many of them that they're trying to keep them under thumb because they're so fearful of them. And so after Moses and Aaron leave, after Pharaoh's like, stop pulling them away from their work, stop making them idle, stop giving them excuses not to do the work that I've given them to do. Moses and Aaron go away, and so then he goes and he talks to the guys that are overseeing this work that they're doing, the building of the making of the bricks for all of these construction projects and the building of houses and all the things, whatever construction that Pharaoh wants done. Hey, Stephen. He's like, go tell them that they're going to have to continue to make the same amount of bricks, but now they have to gather their own straw, and they still have to make that same amount of bricks while still gathering the straw to make them now, instead of it being provided for them. And then for the men, we're going to make them work more. We're going to give them more things to do, so that they'll stop being idle, so that they'll stop having time to sit around and talk and think up these ridiculous things that they're coming to me with. So that's what he tells the taskmasters. So now in verse 10, "And the taskmasters of the people went out, and their officers, and they spake to the people, saying, Thus saith Pharaoh, I will not give you straw. Go ye, get you straw where you can find it, yet not aught of your work shall be diminished." All right, so they tell him, you got to go get your own straw now, but you still have to do the same amount of work. You've got daily quotas, you got to meet those quotas, and now you got to find your own straw. So the people were scattered abroad throughout all the land of Egypt to gather stubble instead of straw, because they're not going to be able to find straw on their own. And they end up getting like lesser quality stuff because of it. And the taskmasters hasted them, saying, Fulfill your works, your daily task, as when there was straw. And the officers of the children of Israel, which Pharaoh's taskmasters had set over them, were beaten and demanded, Wherefore have you not fulfilled your task in making brick, both yesterday and today as heretofore? So when they're going out doing all of this, they can't keep up with the quotas. They can't find enough straw. They can't make enough brick because they don't have enough time in the day. Pharaoh has set for them essentially an impossible task. And I think he does it on purpose. I think he's doing it to give him an excuse to treat them even more poorly than he has before. So I have heard of that, Kimberly. That is a very, very long discussion. That is something that I would be happy to talk with you. Maybe its own video or maybe just privately. I'm not afraid of talking about it publicly. The short version is that I don't believe in extraterrestrials. And I believe the Bible is clear on that. So, to have a longer discussion about that, maybe I can do another video sometime if you're interested, or we can just talk about it over private message sometime, whenever you're up for that. So, hey Houston, welcome aboard. Stephen, did you know the archaeological digs have demonstrated that there were bricks found in that dynasty of Egypt with straw mixed into them? How cool is that? Yes, archaeology is very, very cool in supporting the Bible, although, Stephen, I would probably question that the 18th dynasty is the one that the Hebrews were there. We will have to talk about chronology sometime. Because I think there's a problem with the currently popular accepted chronology of the Egyptian leaders and the dating and stuff. So they found strawless bricks, and then they later had straw added. Okay, and I'd love to talk about that. That's kind of off the beaten path of what the scriptures are actually saying. But that's definitely a fun conversation to talk about, is history and archaeology and all that, and I would love to talk about that. So if you'll remind me, I'll look into the calendars that I have seen on the Egyptian chronology and the Hebrew chronology, and we can talk about that gap, and we can talk about what dynasty that actually was there. So anyway, the Israelites are not able to fulfill their quotas. Yeah, Brian, I would have to go look. It's been a long time since I've looked at those. Maybe more than 15 years, really, since I've had to look at the chronologies and stuff. So I'd have to dig all that stuff up. But anyway, the Israelites are not able to meet their quotas, and so in verse 15. Then the officers of the children of Israel. So these are the leaders, and we're going to talk about those in chapter 6. Please, thank you. My little one is doing theme music for my video tonight. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely we'll talk about it. So, verse 15. And the officers of the children, the leaders of Israel, come and cried unto Pharaoh, saying, Wherefore dealest thou thus with thy servants? Why are you doing this to us? There's no straw given unto thy servants, and they say to us, Make brick, and behold, thy servants are beaten, but the fault is in thine own people. So the elders are saying, look, y'all don't give us any straw, and then you still say we gotta make these brick, and then when we can't because we don't have the time, we don't have the resources to do it, then you beat us. That's not our fault. That's y'all's fault. So, yeah, she's super cute. She gets out of a lot of trouble because of it. So verse 17, but he said, that's Pharaoh, you are idle. Therefore you say, let us go and do sacrifice to Jehovah. Go therefore now and work, for there shall no straw be given you, yet shall you deliver the tale of bricks. In other words, you've had time to ask to go sacrifice to your God, so you obviously don't have enough to do during the day. So now I'm giving you something extra to do. And so you're going to get your own straw, and you're going to still deliver the same quota of bricks. So verse 19, the officers of the children of Israel did see that they were in evil case, They were in an evil situation, one that there was an impossible one. After it was said, "You shall not minish aught from your bricks of your daily task." So this verse 19, it says in the ESV that they were in trouble. The foremen of the people of Israel saw that they were in trouble when the Egyptians said, "You shall by no means reduce your number of bricks, your daily task each day." So it's evil, it's calamitous, it's troubling. And so they met Moses, verse 20, and Aaron, who stood in the way as they came forth from Pharaoh. So they're coming out of their meeting with Pharaoh, and they see Moses and Aaron standing there. And they said unto them, "Jehovah look upon you and judge, because you have made our savor," this savor, or this kind of this, the way that Pharaoh looks unto us. It's the kind of the idea there of a smell, a stinky smell. "You have made our savor to be abhorred in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants, to put a sword in their hand to slay us." You basically said, no, I have not mentioned the Hyksos people yet. I don't know what that is, so you'll have to enlighten me. But anyway, they come out and they basically tell him, "Look, what is Jehovah getting you to do? You've given them a reason to kill us now. They've made us an impossible task. We're in trouble, and they're going to start slaying us for not fulfilling their task." And so Moses in verse 22 returns to Jehovah and says, "Jehovah, wherefore hast thou so evil entreated this people? Why is it that thou hast sent to me?" In other words, he's still whining. Right here at the start, Moses is kind of having a faulty start as the man of God. He's by no means perfect, and I think that's one of the things we see in the Bible is oftentimes the people that we see as heroes, or that we lift up as heroes, they have their faults, their flaws. So, anyway, so Moses is like, what are you doing? Why did you send me? With all this is going on? For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in thy name, he has done evil to this people. Neither hast thou delivered thy people at all. So he's like, you said you were going to deliver them, and Pharaoh is just making things harder. Well, didn't God say that was going to happen? When he sent Moses and Aaron in with that particular message, the message was going to make Pharaoh harden his heart. So Moses is not paying attention, essentially. So, yes.
How do you make the clothes stand?
Not right now. I'll have to help you later, okay? All right. So that brings us into chapter 6, and of course, God has the answer for Moses, and he says, Then Jehovah said unto Moses, Now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. So God answers and says, I told you this was going to happen, and now I have an opportunity to show my wonders. What would have been the case if, of course, God knows what Pharaoh is going to choose to do, but what would have been the case if Moses came up to Pharaoh and said, Our God said that we should go out into the wilderness 3 days to sacrifice unto them. And Pharaoh would have been like, okay, off you go. We'll see you in 6 days. And then they would have gone out there and they would have made their sacrifices, and then what? Come back and be slaves again? But what if Pharaoh had let them go? There's a problem here in the idea that Pharaoh just lets the Israelites completely go. Hey, wife, without any of the things being displayed. I think we should have an Ernie's Children's segment and let them talk and sing. I could totally do that. And Karis loves to sing. She makes up songs all the time. I might have to post a few of those videos up. So, anyway, what God is doing here when he's telling Moses is, look, I know Pharaoh isn't going to let you go. And so this is an opportunity for God to demonstrate to both the Israelite nation and to the nations round about that he is a true and living God, that he is real, and that he is... Hey, Tracy.
I have hay.
You have hay?
Yeah.
Cool.
I can tame a horse.
You're going to tame a horse with it? Okay.
If I find a horse.
Okay. There's some in the stalls, I think. I think there's some where all the sheep in them are, maybe. So he has an opportunity now to demonstrate to all of these nations that he can do what he says he's going to do. That the nations should listen. That when a nation doesn't listen and doesn't heed the warnings that he gives them, then bad things are going to happen to them. That they should repent, they should change, that they should be kind to the Israelite nation that he has set apart to preserve, to bring Messiah into the world, to save the world. There's a specific purpose for this nation. And if the surrounding nations will listen, then God will let them be. God will be kind to them and take that into account. I think he does this to an extent with Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire. Although later on you have his grandson comes up and is not a good person, and so ends up Babylon is wiped out. But God has a particular purpose, and so he tells Moses, "Now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh," and the Israelites will see what God will do to Pharaoh, and they will know that he is all powerful. They will see demonstrated his power, and that he is the creator. And he says, what I'm about to do to Pharaoh, not only is he going to let you go, he's going to kick you out. He's going to push you out. He's going to be so, Kimberly, that's the whole point of the message that he sends to all of these nations. He tells Abraham, look, I'm giving them time. I'm being long suffering with these Canaanites. There's you're there to kind of be my messenger. People knew Abraham, they knew Isaac, they knew Jacob, they knew that they were the followers of Jehovah. And it was a bit of a message to these nations for them to shape up. And they don't do it. And they become like Sodom and Gomorrah. Their wickedness is completely filled up with all kinds of evils, including the sacrifice of children. And it's just awful. And so he's going to show his wonders here, and he's going to show his wonders in the land of Canaan. And he's going to be with the Israelites quite a bit to do that. So there's a purpose to it. So, and God spake unto Moses and said unto them, I am Jehovah. And he's claiming that name. He's like, this is my identity, and everyone is going to know it. And I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, that's El Shaddai, but by my name Jehovah was I not known unto them. So this I am is one that wasn't as well known, but El Shaddai they knew because of his power. And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. In verse 5, and I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. So again, as we talked about last time, Stephen and I have kind of seen some more examples of this in some other texts that we're studying. This idea of God remembering and saying that he remembered doesn't mean God forgot something. It means that God is about to act on something. When he says, I remember this, he is bringing it to the forefront and saying, now is the time to act. So, and I have remembered my covenant. He is about to bring them to the promised land for them to dwell in it. Yes. Not right now, please. It's pretty. It's a pretty song, but not right now. Okay. And so just an example of this is that when God says that he will wipe away our sins and remember them no more, that means he's not going to act on them. And it's not that God is going to forget anything. He's omniscient. but just the fact that he's not ever going to bring them up and act on them. And so that's what it means when God says, I'm going to remember. Chris, I need you to remember, okay? Can you remember, please? Okay, thank you. All right. Verse 6, wherefore say unto the children of Israel. So this is God's message to the children of Israel. I am Jehovah, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. And I will take you to me for a people, for a nation, and I will be to you a God, and you shall know that I am Jehovah your God, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And I will bring you into the land concerning that the which I did swear to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I will give to you for a heritage. I am Jehovah. So this is the message that Moses is supposed to bring to them. God is reminding them of the covenant that he gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He says that now it's the time for you to become the nation that I promised to them. And so sit tight. My will is going to be done because I am Jehovah, and there isn't any other real God besides me anyway. And so the interesting thing here, this idea of redemption, the Israelite nation serves as a type pointing forward to the New Testament antitype. The whole Old Testament, everything in the Old Testament is a type. That means it's a shadow, or it is an example looking forward to an antitype. It's a pointer to a greater reality, a better reality. You read in Hebrews chapter 5 where it talks about that the things of Moses were the shadows of the things to come. That's the type antitype relationship. You see in 1 Peter 3:21 that the flood of Noah's day was a type, because the New Testament immersion is the antitype. It is the thing pointed to, the important thing, the higher spiritual truth of the New Testament. And so the Israelite people were a type. So, let's see here. Speak upon what has happened today. No more school this year. Kimberly, can I wait until I'm finished with the chapter, and then maybe we can talk about that at the end, since I'm going to have a little extra time? Happy to do that. So anyway, looking at this idea of redemption, the Israelite nation was in bondage. They were slaves to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians persecuted them, and they needed to be redeemed. They needed to be bought or brought out of that slavery and become a free nation. And we see this with the church in the New Testament. The church is the antitype. They are the new Jerusalem, the new spiritual Israel. And that spiritual nation is comprised of people who were biologically descendants of these guys. They are also the new Israel. The church is also comprised of Gentiles. It's made up of people of all physical nations, because physical nations don't matter in terms of spiritual realities. That they're irrelevant, because that which is physical is temporal. That means it's bound by time, and eventually will pass away. And so the redemption that we see of the Egyptian, or of the Israelites, you're going to see the moment that they are immersed, coming up out of the water of the Red Sea. Another type antitype relationship there of New Testament immersion, that they are no longer the slaves that they were under Egyptian bondage. They were freed through immersion, with the water on both sides and the cloud above, and come up on the other side, a new nation, a new body. And God had called them, "This is my son." And so, yes, the new Israel that was delivered from Egypt. And ironically, It's the Israelites, the physical nation of Israel, that is called spiritually Egypt. They're called spiritually Sodom and Gomorrah. And that happens multiple times. And they tried to persecute the new Israel. And so the Egyptians here have the Israelites under bondage, and they are about to be freed. And then, of course, you have 40 years of wandering where there's this establishment period of that nation where God is handing them the laws. And we see the same thing, that once the Christian nation is founded, which is at the cross, the death, burial, and resurrection, then you have this 40-year period of wandering in a wilderness of persecution. Hey, Heather, welcome aboard. You have this 40-year period of wandering in the wilderness where the church is being established. Paul writes about this in Romans chapter 1. He says, I want to come to you that you might be established. Well, the church there at Rome already existed. It was already founded, but he wanted to further establish them. And so there's a lot of type anti-type stuff going on here, and part of that is this idea of redemption that is spoken of here in verse 6. And so that's God's message. And then we get into verse 9, and Moses spake so unto the children of Israel, but they hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit and for cruel bondage. So now, remember before when Moses showed those signs, they believed. But now Moses is speaking to them, but now things have gotten a little harder, and so now they're not listening to him anymore. And this is a pattern that we see for the Israelite nation for the rest of their existence. You know, they have cycles. They believe God, then things get harder, and they stop believing in God, and God ends up reminding them one way or another. And then they cry out for deliverance, and then they get delivered, and then they believe God for a little while, and then they just cycle through that over and over again. And here's the beginning of that cycle. They believed Moses. Now they're not listening to Moses. So am I not a fan of Moses? I don't know that I could be said to be a fan of anybody in the Bible except maybe Jesus. Moses had a purpose, but as far as in terms of today, what's going on today, the Old Testament, I believe, was nailed to the cross and is not authoritative over anybody today. I also believe that the Gentiles were never under it. So for me as a Gentile, I would be considered a Gentile back in that time. I would never have been under the law of Moses. And so then we see throughout the New Testament for someone to come and try to make me under it, put me under it. They were called Judaizers during the first century. But Galatians 5:4 and a whole bunch of other places that we read of to try to put Gentiles under the law of Moses is to fall from grace. Galatians 5:4 explicitly says that. Hey, Mark, welcome aboard. Explicitly says that those of you who seek to be justified by Moses has fallen from grace. Paul, in writing about the Israelites, the physical genetic Jews, in Galatians 3:24 and 25, says that we were under the law as a schoolmaster, but now that the faith has come, we're no longer under the schoolmaster. So even the Jews after the cross, we're not under it. And so it's not that I hate Moses. I'm not going to rag on Moses or anything, but we're just trying to give a real picture here of what the what Ernie has one of the oh my goodness. We're just trying to give a real picture of what the Israelite nation was. They were not flawless by any stretch of the imagination. They were a bunch of whiny, rebellious children, and that is being nice, because God is not. When you get into like books like Ezekiel or Isaiah, God calls them some things that are pretty hardcore, things that I don't necessarily want to talk about with a 6-year-old in the room. So Israel was not a picture perfect nation. It is definitely not an example to aspire to, certainly. So anyway, so Jehovah in verse 10 spake unto Moses, saying, go in, speak unto Pharaoh. So forget about the Israelites. Go talk to Pharaoh, Go in and speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moses spake before Jehovah, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? And so Moses is like, look, your people aren't listening to me. Why is Pharaoh going to listen? He's not going to listen to me. To him, I am as the uncircumcised would be to the Israelites. And there's this cultural disconnect. He's definitely not going to listen to me if the people that I'm supposed to be of. Yeah, be nice, definitely. Deuteronomy 9:7. Stephen has posted up a good example of one of the times where the Israelites just they go off rail. So yeah, Stephen's always giving me a hard time. It's okay, I can take it. So verse 13, and Jehovah spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, and gave them charge unto the children of Israel and unto Pharaoh king of Egypt to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. These be the heads of their fathers' houses. So now we're going to get into this kind of lineage thing, and we're going to talk about who's in charge now. He's impeded speech. Oh, so you're saying that the uncircumcised lips is the idea that he's going back talking about he's not a good speaker, that he's going back to that excuse. That may be. I didn't even think to check the ESV on that one. So we look at what it says in the ESV for 12. Nope, says the same thing. For I am of uncircumcised lips. So I don't know. I would have to study that more, Brian, to see what that's actually talking about. To me, him bringing up the children of Israel and then Pharaoh and then talking about uncircumcised lips, you've made it if you have an arch definitely. Thank you. I've always wanted an arch nemesis. For a while, I thought it was my wife. No, I'm kidding. So for me, verse 12 is contextually a cultural thing, is what it looks like. But you are right, Brian, to bring up this idea of Moses maybe going back to the excuse of, the children of Israel aren't going to listen to me. Pharaoh's definitely not going to listen to me because I'm not a great speaker. So he could totally be going back to the excuse. That would fit the larger context. I wouldn't have a problem with that understanding. So now he's going to talk about the leaders, and I want to kind of just emphasize a point that I've kind of made a few times here as we get to it. Yes, a little bit.
I want to say if I could have a fence that can open.
Sweetheart, you can do whatever you want. I just play in it. You can totally do that. If you want a fence, you can have a fence.
Fence that opens.
A gate?
Yeah.
Okay, so to build a gate that opens, you have to do stick, 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 and block, block in the middle.
I don't have.
You don't have those?
I have.
Okay, let me finish up here.
Sticks.
Let me finish up here and I'll get you one, okay? Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, verse 14. These be the heads of their fathers' houses. In other words, these are the tribes as they stand now and who the leaders of these tribes are. And they're going to start with the 12 patriarchs, and they're going to show of those 12 patriarchs who is in charge out of those patriarchs. And I don't think they go into all of them. I think they just go to the 6 sons that are of Leah here. So they start with Reuben. It says, these be the heads of their fathers' houses. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok and Palu, Hezron and Carmi. These be the families of Reuben. All right, so those are the guys that are in charge right now over the Reuben tribe. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin, and Ohad and Jachin, and Zohar and Shaul, the son of the Canaanitish woman. These are the families of Simeon. So these are these big families that have come out of Simeon, and I think those are his sons And these are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations: Gershon and Kohath. Remember, I told you about Kohath, and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years. So we get to know how old Levi was. Levi was born in Padan Aram, and he was, during that 20 years that Jacob was there, he grew up. Hey Darren, welcome aboard. We're in Exodus chapter 6, around verse 16. But he grew up for the time period that Jacob is wandering around in Canaan. He has Kohath amongst others while he's doing that. And then he is brought into Egypt with his brothers. And so Levi is dead, but in this case, these people are still alive. Gershon, Kohath, Merari, they're the leaders of the tribe of Levi at this time. And Kohath is the grandfather of Moses and Aaron. And the years, 17, the sons of Gershon, Libni and Shimi, according to their families. So that's the firstborn of Levi. And the sons of Kohath, Amram and Izhar and Hebron and Uziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. So maybe Kohath is dead since they give his lifespan there. And then the sons of Merari, Mahali, and Mushi, these are the families of Levi according to their generations. And then Amram, which we talked about in Exodus 1 and 2, Amram took him Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. So he marries his aunt. And the years of life of Amram were 137 years. And so perhaps Amram has passed away at this point too, and that leaves Aaron and Moses to kind of be leaders. Oxen and carts to Gershon and Merari, but none to Kohath. Okay. Oh, you're talking about when Pharaoh sent to bring them into Egypt, I guess is what you're saying. Then the sons of Izhar, Korah and Nepheg and Zikri. And Korah is important. We'll talk more about Korah when we get into the wilderness. And the sons of Uziel, Mishael, and Elzaphan and Zithri. Okay, so those are the first three of Jacob's children, Reuben, Simeon, and Levi, and their descendants. And it's basically talking about these are the elders, these are the leaders. And of course, these are from the three oldest tribes, the three oldest children of Jacob. And so they are kind of sitting in authority or power right now over the rest of the Israelites. And they're the ones that kind of go to Pharaoh when there's a problem or whatever. And really, this is essentially one of those things where the oldest kind of have seniority. And it's not an authentic, or it's not an official kind of rulership. It's just these guys happen to be the oldest of the oldest tribes. And Nacon's threshing floor. All right, you're gonna have to bring that to. I don't have this whole thing memorized, so I'll have to talk about it when we get out of here. So anyway, these are the leaders, and so now we have, and Aaron took Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Nahshon, to wife. And she bare him Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. So Nadab and Abihu are two names that we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. Just remember these as we get to them. And the sons of Korah, Aser and Elkanah and Abiasaph. These are the families of the Korahites. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Pudiel to wife, and she bare him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to their families. Okay, so this is just kind of telling you who the names were. You're not a Moses fan, and that's okay. Just interesting that I'm not a Moses fan. Okay, and we can talk more about what you're meaning, Kimberly, here in a bit if you like. Not sure what you're alluding to there. So verse 26, these are that Aaron and Moses, to whom Jehovah said, bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt according to their armies. That word armies is not really a great translation because they're not military at this point. Names to write down for our next kids. It's surprising because, how do you say that? It's surprising because there's a number of characters in my novels that have got names from here. Sarah, the Paideon, that's on the cover of my first book, I just thought it was a cool alternate spelling of Sarah. I did not intend to name her after a character from the book, and as I'm reading through all these names, there it is. Akbor, which means mouse in Hebrew. I did take that out of the Hebrew because another character out of that book is muskrat, and so that was intentional. But Sarah was not, and there's a couple others that I just kind of happened to run across. So I'm thinking I'm being all original with my name sometimes, and I'm not. So anyway, in verse 26, that word armies in the King James is probably better translated as host, which is what the ESV has. Just that there's a whole bunch of them. Not that they're actually military armies, so to speak. So I think the translators in the King James got that one wrong. Verse 27, these are they which spake to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt. These are that Moses and Aaron. And it came to pass on the day when Jehovah spake unto Moses in the land of Egypt, that Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, I am Jehovah. Speak thou unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I say unto thee. And Moses said before Jehovah, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips. How shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? So I think that maybe goes back to what Brian was saying about Pharaoh's not going to listen to me because I'm a bad speaker. These are they which spake to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. I think it's super important, again, to point out that Moses is the great-grandson of Levi, because it's Levi and then Kohath, Amram, and then Moses and Aaron. So they're fourth generation after Levi. Levi is their great-grandfather. We're not that far removed from those 12 patriarchs of those 12 tribes. So, all right, there were a couple of things I said that I would go back and talk about at the end here. I think Kimberly asked about what's going on with all of what has happened today. No more school this year. This means a lot to students, teachers, and parents. You asked that question, Kimberly, and I honestly have a different mindset about a lot of things than a lot of people. And sometimes that different mindset gets me into trouble. I don't want to delve into things that people are not going to want to, that's going to turn people off. So I can speak to what I know a lot of people are feeling, and then I can maybe talk about a couple of things that I know not to be the case in the effort to allay fears. As a school teacher, I know that there are a lot of seniors who are missing out on their prom. They're missing out on their graduation. They're missing out on that last quarter where they kind of coast and they're more there for social reasons to hang with their friends. They're missing out on a lot. And I know that there are a lot of teachers who feel that not being there this last quarter for their students, they feel like they personally are somehow doing a disservice to their students by not providing that education to them. And I will say I understand that. And for those who look at it that way, I get it. And I applaud their sincerity and their sacrifice, their willingness to say that, I really wish I could be there for my students. And we are, as public school teachers, we have made ourselves available. We do communicate with those students. I will tell you, the students that I've been given responsibility for are all seniors. And their response to me has been, we know we're not coming back, and we're moving on, and thank you, but don't bother us. And they put it in a nice way, but that's kind of their perspective, not necessarily their attitude, but their perspective is okay, we get it, we understand the situation, we're moving forward with our lives. And I have set up communications for them, and I am here if they need to talk. I'm here if they have questions. I still have students from, oh goodness, I've been teaching now for, this is my 13th year. I've still got students from my first year ever of teaching that I talk to on Facebook that will come to me with questions from time to time. So I don't mind doing that at all, because I continue to do that all the time. But I know that this is kind of a crazy time for a lot of people. I think what you are also going to see here, we're starting to see it now. The people are tired of it. They recognize that at the very best, there was some miscalculations by the government about how bad this was. And there's a lot of them that just want to get back to work. The economic pressure and fears of not being able to put food on the table, the fears of starvation and stuff, have become stronger than their fear of catching this disease. It's a disease which does not affect children. There have been almost no deaths under the age of 18. The ones that have died have been with complications. There have been relatively few deaths related to those who are not what we would consider senior citizens. There have been mostly deaths of people who are elderly and who deal with other issues. Those who are immunocompromised to a great extent are going to be in danger. So there's a miscommunication at best that's gone on, and so a lot of people are waking up to that, and they're wanting now to get back to work. They're wanting to get on with their lives. They want to put food on the tables, and this is a nation, as the Constitution says, of the people, by the people, for the people. And the people are a little irritated with their public servants. That's one of the things I like to remind people of. Everybody says that the president and Congress and the judges and the governors and all of the state whatevers are our leaders. And they are not our leaders in the sense of a king or a magistrate or a master. They are our leaders in the way that the captain of the football team is a leader. They are leaders by example. They are leaders in that they have charge of seeing to it that other nations don't mess with us, and that states don't get into armed conflict. But the greater role is that of servant. They are public servants. They serve us. And there's a lot of them that I think they're overstepping their bounds, and the people are seeing that. And I'm just telling you what I'm seeing in the public, and I think you have a lot of people who look at this, and from a biblical perspective, they're saying, this is all the stuff in Revelations, or this is the end times, and this is this, or this is that, and they think because there's some kind of crisis that the Bible directly talks about it, and honestly, the Bible doesn't. It really doesn't have anything to do with. Hey, Brandon. It doesn't have anything to do specifically with events going on today. The Bible does address mankind. The Bible does address how mankind is going to act. Talks about who we are and what we are. We tend to make the same mistakes. That's why Israel is such a good foil. I think really the Old Testament, and specifically the look at Israel, is a look at humanity, and a good example of why humans need a God. because on our own we kind of missed the boat. But as far as a lot of the fear, and I'm not talking about specific fears. There are certain categories of people that I have, I accept, and I even want them to shelter. I think they need to. I think it's important that they do, just to be on the safe side. But there is a lot of hyped up fear, and I think that hyped up fear, the way that we have reacted to it as a nation, is large part because there's a lot of people who don't have God in their lives, and then for those who claim to be followers of Christ, I think there's a show of a lack of faith in God and God's design of our bodies, of creation in general. And so I would encourage people at this point to be respectful, push our public servants to let us get back to work, to let us turn this economy back on. America is the greatest nation in the world for a number of reasons. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we haven't made mistakes. But I think there's a lot to be said for what America has done positively. And part of that is our ability to recover when we get knocked down. We see this a number of times. And I think that's the point in time that we're at with this crisis. I think we need to get back up, and I think we need to go back to work. Yes?
I have enough sticks to make it.
Okay, when I'm done here. Okay? And so my encouragement to the people would be, don't be afraid. Look to God, pray, be wise, make wise choices, but don't fear. Ours is a religion that is, the Christian religion is not supposed to be a religion of fear. There is no fear in love. John talks about this in 1 John, and if we love God and we trust God the way that the Israelites should have done at this time, we know that God will take care of us one way or the other. So let her sing. So you want her to come sing right now? Okay. You want to come sing a song to him? No, not right now. No, she's being shy now. Suddenly she's shy. So anyway, Kimberly, I hope that answers your question. I don't want to turn people off when I talk politics. I have my opinions. I have my views. I do bring them up, and I will talk about them, especially when people ask, but I'm not trying to speak in a way that is going to turn people off. So, anyway, like I said, if you want to talk about it more, if you want to get into more detail and you talk more specifics about it, I'm happy to do that. We can do that over private message or something. I would be happy to do that. But as far as tying it to what we're studying specifically here in Exodus, just look at Israel as kind of a model. You want to come in and say hello to everybody? All right, you can sit here and say hello to everybody. But just look at Israel as a model of humanity, and we're going to see the way that they act, and they really give us a good example of why mankind needs a God. And just like today, we need a God, and there's all kinds of reasons to look out into the world and understand why humans need God, and we need to trust what He has communicated to us in His Word. And so, hey Cynthia, oh, you want to do it? Go ahead. All right. So anyway, if nobody else has any questions, then we can wrap it up tonight. If you do have questions you think of later, you can private message me, or you can leave some comments below, and I will see them and I will get to them. So Kim says hi. See? Hi. You want to wave? Cool. So again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We did make it to the 1 hour mark, but I think we went a little over with that question, which is great. I love having people who have questions and we can talk about stuff. So thank you again for joining us. If you liked tonight's lesson, I hope you shared. Oh, thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate that.
I love you.
Super cute. She gets it all from her mom. But hopefully you guys will join me. My intention is tomorrow night. If all things continue as they are,
a dog.
then we'll continue on with the next couple of chapters tomorrow night. So y'all have a wonderful evening.